Today, I will be presenting my design proposal for the KBH Hospice. The death of a family member could be an overwhelming experience for any family. As a space where people are there to experience the end of life, hospices are to not only there to provide them with the services, but also create a welcoming and warm experience. A hospice is just like one big family, with new members joining and leaving all the time. One of the key features for people to live in quality and to die in dignity is to be in a place where they feel like they belong, and in other words, home-like. Being inspired by this understanding of a hospice, I decided to name my project under one roof. A hospice is where patients, their family members, as well as staff interact. In other words, a community is created under a hospice setting. Communities exist in many forms, and one of the main physical forms is a village. A traditional type of village comprises of series of buildings, with individual separate spaces of different functions, some residential and others as gathering spaces. The design that I am imagining for the KBH Hospice is having a village-like layout, with individual houses of different functions all located under one common roof, in one common hospice space. There are similar building types in which a hospice could be related to, and this includes hospital, hotel, care home, and the private home. A conclusion to this analysis is that a hospice should be less institutional and be more home-like. The process of deinstitutionalization could be done through blurring boundary conditions. The boundary condition that I've analyzed for specific hospice projects could mainly be divided into four parts. The first being boundary between architecture and landscape, and this could be achieved through having courtyard to connect interior and exterior activities and having multiple natural features within the building. The second would be the boundary between functional space and circulation space. In this case, open plan is applied to most of the public space to promote interaction and social gatherings. The third would be the boundary between exterior space and interior space. In this case, the form and materiality of the building, when being viewed from the exterior, extend into the indoor, creating ambiguity between having a sense of being inside and outside. The next would be between private residence and the urban context. Residential units are no longer being hidden away from the rest of society, but instead being immersed in the surrounding urban context. To further enhance the spatial experience of the ambiguous boundary condition, a strategy I have used for the interior design is to use the layering of walls to create a space with edge boundary condition that is less defined upon first gaze, contrasting the expected spatial experience of a typical institutional building with space defined by the four walls. In creating space that one could not easily identify where the actual edge is using the layering of walls, I have tested out a series of studies on spaces that I have later be able to integrate it into the actual hospice itself. The site is located at the west end of the Sesquicentennial Park, with the north facing the Greenbelt Heritage Area. To the south of the site is a proposed residential zone that is currently under construction. To the northwest of the site is a commercial zone complex. Before going into details about my design, I would like to present an overview of my design in a walkthrough video. The massing was originally inspired by the shape of the site. Then the massing was broken up into smaller houses based on the different programs. Finally, all the smaller houses would be joined together by a common roof to form one large space, which then becomes the KBH Hospice. The entrance of the building is separated into two parts, with the main entrance on the new road perpendicular to Bermalia and a secondary staff entrance facing Bermalia Road. Inspired by natural elements from the Greenbelt, the landscape design of the site introduces pathways in the forms of organic lines, guiding the landscape and greenery into the space, the building's central courtyard, and to extend even further close to the streets. These pathways then form two gardens, one being in the north end of the site and one in the south. In terms of vehicle circulation, cars would arrive at the site from Bermalia Road or the secondary road adjacent to it. As for pedestrian circulation, sidewalk is installed along both Bermalia and the secondary road. Based on a light and shadow analysis of the building on site, when working with the correct shading devices, south-facing residential units would experience the best natural lighting condition, and the sunlight would create a warm atmosphere within the unit. Further detail on this would be discussed later on. All the building's functional space are proposed on the same level to promote better social interaction within the space. The building would have a basement, and it is used for the mechanical service and storage space. In terms of the relationship between private space, public space, as well as staff space, all the public programs are being placed around in the central courtyard as well as being at the entrance lobby area. Private space mainly includes the residence units and the family room. The 12 residence units are being divided into two wings of the building, and each set of residence unit would have its own family room. Here's the ground floor plan of the building. I will now be introducing some of the major spaces within the hospice through a series of images. This is the basement plan of the building. This is a view of the hospice building when arriving from the east of Bermalia Road. As could be seen from this angle, the overall building is kept at a low height, being able to merge into the natural landscape in the background. As demonstrated from this image, people arrive at the hospice through a circular driveway. Upon entering the building, they would arrive at the main reception lobby space. Right beside the lobby is a multifunctional memorial space, possible for hosting presentation and events. A children's room is also close to the entrance lobby, where parents have the choice to leave their children when visiting. The secondary staff entrance is located at the northwest end of the hospice. Program spaces such as office, boarding rooms, and staff lounges are in close proximity to the staff entrance, creating a more efficient staff circulation. Moving further in from the main entrance, people would then arrive through a corridor as they walk further into the building. A similar strategy of integrating nature into the building is used in multiple locations of the hospice. Then people would arrive at a junction where they could either get to the residence units or the public gathering space beside the central courtyard. This view captures the public gathering space located beside the central courtyard. Both the kitchen as well as the dining space are at the same location as the gathering space. This is a view looking at the central courtyard space from the dining room space. The landscaping consists of selected types of vegetation as well as layers and layers of stone walls leading toward the center of the courtyard, creating a sense of ambiguity to where the boundary of the courtyard lies. This view captures the corridor space that leads to each of the residence units. A narrow line of skylight is open at the roof to provide the space with natural light. At the same time, the material used for each of the residential units extends from the outside all the way to the inside, diminishing the boundary between exterior and interior space. When arriving at the residential units, a home-like atmosphere is created through wood wall and floor finishes. At the same time, various shelves would be installed inside the room to display some of the patient's most treasured items throughout their lifetime. This 40 square meter room will have enough space for the patient's family, as well as a private accessible washroom in each unit installed with shower feature. The issue of privacy has always been considered when designing the residence unit. There will be a total of 5 landscaping layers from the building to the sidewalk. The first layer would be gravel, followed by bushes, flowers, small trees, and finally a row of fences. In addition, each of the residential unit is raised 0.6 meters from the ground, and adding in the height of the fence will reach a height of 2.1 meters. With frosted glass railing, a visual barrier is created when those from the street try to look inside the hospice. The overhang of the residential unit is designed in response to local sun condition, where higher summer sun is controlled to prevent overheating in the space and will allow more winter sun to enter the space. In addition, the use of double-pane soundproof glazing will minimize noise coming from the streets. In contrast to the masonry exterior cladding used for the main portion of the hospice, the residential units use wood as its exterior cladding material. Here's an envelope exploded detail showing how it would manage air, heat, water, and vapor from the exterior to create a comfortable space for the patient inside of the unit. Here's a view of the garden facing the north. The large opening from inside allows a view of the natural conservation zone in addition to the garden. The garden is targeted to those who wanted a place to talk with others in an outdoor setting or to be with themselves. A second garden is located at the south end of the hospice. People are able to access this space when exiting from the center portion of the building. The center part in between the two residential wings is where a large multifunctional nursing station is located, creating minimal walking distance from each unit. It will work as a combination of office space and nursing station on a regular basis, and it is possible for the entire space to be converted into a medical nursing space when necessary. The view from the south elevation shows the relationship between the residential units on the two wings. Here's a view of the residential units of the west wing of the hospice, and the following view captures the residential units on the east wing. The space that is on the opposite end of the residential units is demonstrated in the section diagram. On the west wing we could see the family room, staff space, boardroom, as well as the resource library. The central part would be consisting of the nursing station, and the cut on the east wing captures space such as dining gathering space, as well as the children's room and the reception lobby. Here are two more section cuts of the building, both showing the ground floor's relationship with the basement. The first section shows detail on the common public space beside the courtyard, and the second section captures the relationship between the residential units and the rest of the building. As for material choice, the exterior facade mainly composes of cream granite panels as cladding. For the residential units, wood exterior finish is applied, and dark gray metal roof tile is used for the roofing design. The integration of systems has also been carefully considered when designing the building. Here's a diagram showing the circulation within the building, as well as the fire escape route. Fire exits are located throughout the building, and from any point of the building, there's a 45-meter egress is achieved. The following diagram shows the location of shaft spaces in the building, and since all the mechanical rooms are located in the basement, the ductwork would be guided to the ground level. Supply air and return air would then be guided to each of the spaces through the piping as demonstrated in the diagram. Here is a series of diagrams showing the structural grid and relationship to the building. An overall mass timber structure will be used to create the hospice space. Overall, the proposed hospice design would be able to create a warm and welcoming living environment for not only the patients, but also their family members and staff workers. In response to the question of what architecture can do to KBH Hospice, my conclusion would be that it creates a spatial experience allowing those that occupies the space to live in quality, on both a spiritual and physical level, and for those that at the end of life to die in dignity. Architecture acts as the setting for the KBH Hospice family, to leave memories for those that comes and leaves, and to support those that continues to live on.